Welcome to episode 3 of True Talk, where we're not going to put water in our mouth to talk the truth. In this episode, I want to deal with some of my practical experience because just yesterday, I was criticized for being an armchair theorist, and I wanted to share some of my own experience, having actually worked in government on one level, trying to support young entrepreneurs and trying to develop new businesses. This was my time at the Ministry of Planning and Economy back in 2012. And later than that, in 2013, when I graduated from my master's degree program, I tried launching a new business, which was called Kumba Connect. So it comes back to the idea of free market logic and what free market policies, which I am suggesting and which I strongly believe do not support new businesses and which do not support the of new businesses because they high levels of they high barriers to entry for new businesses in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean more widely. So to go back to 2013, I had was just completing my master's degree, and I had this business idea. Basically, was based on some of the research I had done during that degree. It was to create an internet platform, basically that would connect organizations in the Caribbean, mostly companies. Sorry, mostly companies and organizations to help them to become more innovative, to connect with experts, people like myself or people in various fields who have a lot of expertise, um, who are originally from the Caribbean or from, in particular, Trinidad and Tobago. So in July 2013, I had this business idea. I saw this competition that was being just in its second round being carried out by the International Telecommunications Union, which is the United Nations body for ICTs and telecommunications. So I pitched the idea to them, and it just so happened that I won. I was one of, I think, 7 or 8 winners that year. The only person from the Caribbean, the only person from Trinidad and Tobago to have won the competition to date, as far as I know. So I was still here in the UK. I wanted to launch the business. I wanted to register the business. First off, trying to register the business was a headache. It's almost impossible to do that from if you're outside of Trinidad and Tobago. Other countries, it's much simpler. You in the US, you can register a business from anywhere. In the UK, it's the same thing. You can register a business from anywhere you live in the world. And I connected with somebody who was working in one of the agencies that launched the TT BizLink. Whereas this particular portal is meant to make it easier, sorry, make it easier for registering businesses, doing a number of different, accessing a number of different services from the government. It was hell. I it only made it easy, as you know, if you know someone working somewhere, it gets things get done easier, much more easily. So I knew this person who worked there, and I reached out to the person and asking them to, could you help me register this business? It seems impossible. I've tried the TT BizLink program, and I still had to go in person to present an ID. I mean, I had registered, tried registering another business before I left Trinidad in 2012. And even in person, I had to go back 3 times. I had to wait all day at the Ministry of Legal Affairs, the registrar department's office, and to try to get to get another business registered. So to go back, this was not Kumba Connect was not the first business idea I in 2011 and I approached the business development company to try to figure out how could they support a young person with no money with with some a dream basically and a vision to create new entertainment spaces in Trinidad and Tobago, which we really need because there are very few. I mean, if you're not into cinema or into clubbing or into Peter Avenue, there are very few. There are probably more now, which are like the adventure type activities and so on. But I approached the business development company and asked them, can you support this idea? How could I get support to get carry this forward? I met with the vice president of business development, who was the right person to meet with. The person put me on to this person from New Zealand who happened to be a consultant who was widely used throughout government, throughout many different agencies, probably garnered millions of dollars during the time he was present in Trinidad and Tobago in consultancy fees and so on. So I met with the vice president of business development, and I met with him. I presented the idea. I told him, I think this would be a great idea to have new entertainment spaces, have new art spaces, where people, families, and so on can get together. It could be a theme park included in that idea. I now see that there is one for, a theme park. My idea was in 2011. I see there's now an idea for theme park in Invaders Bay, but that's a whole other story. So I tried the person I met with them, and I sat in that meeting. He told me it would cost him $1 million. Well, I was in shock. $1 million just to do a feasibility study. This is for someone who has a really good idea, who wants to enter business, who wants to provide a much needed service, activities for communities, for people throughout Trinidad and Tobago. And this person, well, that immediately shut down the idea because obviously I didn't have $1 million. The vice president of the business development company seemed to agree with this person, this gentleman, that I should pay him $1 million just to do a study to show whether there's a market for this idea. Yes, I learned later on of obviously a business plan, market research, and so on, are all part of developing a business. But shouldn't institutions make it easier for you to develop a business, especially an idea that can potentially bring great value, tourism, and so on to Trinidad and Tobago? Anyway, that was my first experience. I was totally disappointed. It totally discouraged me. And I think it set a trend, more or less, for the Kumba Connect idea that came afterward. So the first challenge, the first obstacle was actually trying to register the business, which I eventually got done after back and forth with the people at the Ministry of Trade, who had to connect, who had to link up with the people at the registrar's department and so on through TT BizLink for me to get my business first registered, as I was not in Trinidad at the time. When I won the competition, there was a lot of, hoorah about it. The first person to win an international global award, innovation award from Trinidad and Tobago, on by an international organization. The Trinidad Guardian published a story and so on. Lo and behold, I learned that later on, I learned that you know a minister of government saw more or less saw the the article in Trinidad Guardian and was able and you know gave it praise and said that you know because I worked at the ministry, he functioned in that there was some relationship to the idea and the award and my working at the ministry, which I didn't understand. They didn't contact me about this was at they didn't contact me about mentioning the award or what could be done, because the idea basically was to make Kumba Connect the Google of the Caribbean and to launch a massive IT company that would really bring true value and innovate in the Caribbean. So that was the first thing. The minister then he made these statements at the Global Entrepreneurship Week that was in 2012, I believe. No, 2013, Global Entrepreneurship Week, because it was quite interesting. I felt quite proud that I could be mentioned in that light. At the University of Trinidad and Tobago, at the graduation, President Carmona also mentioned that this was a good example for graduates to follow, and that we should be doing and make generating new business ideas and doing a lot of new things and so on. I was also proud. When I tried to reach out to both individuals or both their offices, in the first hand, the minister I reached out to, crickets. There were crickets. There was no response. He eventually responded and said, "Yes, good job, good job." And my email to him was, "How could we make this the Google of the Caribbean? How could we really and truly bring value to Trinidad and Tobago, to organizations, to become more competitive and become more innovative?" And because that was the purpose of his trust and the ministry that he led, I contacted the office of the president. How could we? I know the office of the president may not be able to sponsor anything or give monetary or financial support to push the idea forward, because I was still in school, just completing my masters. I had no money really to launch this idea. But I tried through my contacts and so on, and through the mentions made by these two high profile people, to see how we could push this. I also had a team from Trinidad and Tobago working with me, trying to make contacts and trying to get a plan together and so on. In later, this was in late 2013. I had gone for the competition. I won. I had gone to Bangkok, Thailand, with the International Telecommunications Union, received a lot of training, received some support, and so on. And they gave me, I think, was $3,000 to try to launch the project and to at least build a prototype, which my team and I did. We linked up with an Indian company to build the website, to create the platform and so on. But there was no support coming from Trinidad and Tobago. I returned to Trinidad in September, uh, and I met with two business people. Both of them were former presidents of a leading business association. I met with one of the executives of another business association, and I told them about the idea. I told them the accolades it got and so on, and crickets. I also tried, you know, it was disappointing to a great degree. Again in 20 when I was there in 2014, because I had returned to the UK and gone back. I had returned to the UK and was home for one of the business conferences. This was um, the competitiveness forum held in 2014 by the Ministry of Planning. And I approached the main organizer to say, this is a business concept. We've built a prototype. We've built a platform. We just need an opportunity to launch it, because the forum was meant to promote competitiveness, promote innovation, and promote new ideas from the Caribbean. The organizer told me flat out, no. One of the sponsors for the event, which was an international development organization, said, you know, well, didn't say, but in her opinion, it was clashing or conflicted with their obligations. But I thought that it was a forum so that we can promote new ideas. So I thought this was the event to launch Kumba Connect, to get the business community interested, to get government interested. Another door closed. That same year in 2014, this an insurance company, a regional insurance company, decided to use the logo of the company of Kumba Connect, use my image, which they supposedly got online, and use my story to promote one of their products, which was a serious intellectual property breach. I started talking with a lawyer and so on about it, but I had no money to hire someone. There was no organization in my mind. There was no organization, having worked in that area while I was back home. There was no organization that would take up my case and to support um, a new business idea, a new concept. So door after door after door after door was closed. And I know I'm not special in this particular situation where you try to launch a business idea, you try to to get your foot wet, your feet wet in something that you believe that could give back to Trinidad and Tobago and give back to the Caribbean. And the point to, from telling you all of, from sharing the story is that institutions that are set up in Trinidad and Tobago to support new business ideas, in my view, have been compromised. To a large extent, they support ideas, for example, NEDCO, support ideas where you have collateral. You have to have a certain, it's like a bank. Although they're supposed to help develop businesses, you're supposed to provide collateral. How many people have a car or house and so on? Probably have a brilliant business idea, but they can't get the support. You can't get support for intellectual property protection because it costs so much. And for new entrants into the Trinidad and Tobago market, it is enormous. There's so many barriers to entry. The types of businesses that do well and are supported are ones that copycat ideas from abroad, ones who import, software or import different products from abroad and repackage them and sell them in Trinidad and Tobago. And that's not innovation. That is not the type of activity that we need to push our country forward. So my point is, free market logic would tell you that government needs to get out of the way. Experience throughout the world has shown that when government supports businesses and does not only support major corporations or major businesses, when they support new ideas and new businesses, I mean, we've seen it from the United States, the Small Business Administration. In the UK, there's the Technology Strategy Board, and there are a number of different organizations that support businesses. In Singapore, there are their whole trust is about innovation and improving upon technology. In Trinidad and Tobago, our institutions seem to only support large businesses and or large corporate citizens. And the small man or the people who have brilliant ideas probably have little cash. They're not supported. Yes, there are organizations that give you cash, but that's not all you need. You need the types of support, you need the kind of pushing forward that would actually carry the business forward, that would create the infrastructure around new ideas. And not, we don't need government to get out of the way. We need government to support new ideas and to be able to generate in the society a whole host of ideas and a whole host of businesses that would be able to carry Trinidad and Tobago into the future. Thank you very much. And this is the end of episode 3 of True Talk, and where we're not afraid to give you the facts. Take care.